Oh man, more deals are happening in the Flock League.
Officially send away.
That number 1 overall seed matters a ton.
The olive branch has been extended. Mason, do you accept my terms of a bet? So with all the injuries around the NFL, we should take a peek at the waivers. It looks like the big spender of the week was Matthew Stafford going for $16 in fab. Zach dropping Kyler Murray to do that. Of course, we know he lost Jaden Daniels. Blake Corum goes to Danny for $8. He drops Tucker Kraft in the process. Joe Flacco to Thomas for $6. Nick Chubb goes to Sammy Stacks. Mark Andrews to Thomas for $3. Emmanuel Wilson to Mason to handcuff his Josh Jacobs for $1. JJ McCarthy also to Zach's team. Mostly people picking up kickers and defenses. Badake picks up Dalton Schultz. Danny picks up Malik Washington. And then waivers ran again today. Amari DiMercado goes for $7 to Nathan, who drops Michael Carter in the process. Jawan Johnson goes to Nick, the editor, for $5. Adonai Mitchell, newly of the Jets, to Danny for $3. Hunter Henry to the dev team for $2. And then more kickers and defenses. Christian Kirk goes to the editor for $0 as well.
Oh man, more deals are happening in the Flock League. Okay, you get Mason trading, by the way, with his editor, who nobody can get Thomas to answer a message. It'll take 4 to 6 weeks to get him to answer a message. And then of course he answers Mason right away. And of course he accepts his deal. Thomas is getting Rome Odunze, who just got a 0 for Mason last week, and Travis Etienne. And Mason is getting Jalen Waddle and Breece Hall and $20 fab. I like the Mason side of this one. I don't think it's anything crazy though. You could probably have your own preferences on which guy you like more.
Yep. So we officially send away Travis Etienne and Rome Odunze. Etienne, I'm going to be honest with you, my friend. You weren't cutting it. I don't know how many times I had to tell your ass that when y'all get to the red zone, you need to be on that field. And what do? You get there and you go like, oh, yes, Mr. Doug Peterson, I'll come off for Byshell too. Who the hell do you think you belong to? Who do you think you serve? You're on the team of destiny is 7-2 right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars barely have a winning record. The team of destiny has a real shot to take the whole thing down. Jacksonville Jaguars, at best, get bounced round 1 of the playoffs. And you're listening to Doug Peterson over Mason Dodd. And then going over and looking at Rome Odunze, I wanted this to work out between us. I wanted it to be a good culture fit. But if you're going to score 0 points inside the starting lineup, that's something that cannot go unpunished. That's something I don't know if any player has ever done for me ever. It's disrespectful. It shows a lack of effort. And if you were planning on taking the week off, you know my number. You have it. I gave it to you the first day we traded for you. You could have given me a quick call and said, hey, Mason, might look to the waiver wire this week. I'm taking the week off. So this should be a message to everybody else on my team, including the new members that we have with Breece Hall as well as Jalen Waddle. If y'all plan on not showing up, you better give me a warning so your ass is not putting a 0 in my lineup going forward.
So another trade goes down in the Flock League, and it is actually my opponent making the trade. Mason Dodd trades for Jalen Waddle and Breece Hall, who play for the Dolphins and Jets. Not offenses I would love to invest in if I were in his position. Now, I actually think this helps my matchup this week because Breece Hall is going up against the Cleveland Browns, who have been one of the best run defenses in the league, one of the best overall defenses in the league. And Jalen Waddle against the Bills is a great matchup, but I really love Rome Odunze's spot this week against the Giants for a big bounce back. Yeah, feel pretty decent about this trade. Overall, pretty much a consequential deal in the long term.
The more interesting thing is that less than an hour, literally less than an hour, maybe even minutes after this deal is done, Thomas, who literally is never around, this dude is never around to answer any messages, then goes and swaps Rome Odunze, who he just got, Travion Henderson, who finally had a good week, and $30 fab to acquire Derrick Henry from Danny.
I have lost 4 weeks in a row, and I need to make some moves to make my team better. I noticed Mason in the video I was editing of his running back rankings this week seemed to like Breece Hall over Travis Etienne, and he seemed very fearful of Travis Etienne's matchup this week. So we did some negotiating, and I had to send him my fab. But the big reason I did this trade is that the Bears and the Jaguars are 5-3, and the Dolphins and Jets have combined for 3 wins. The trade deadline was yesterday, and Breece Hall and Jalen Waddle didn't get dealt. So So I felt like most of their upside was gone for the end of the season. But kind of at the same time, I did have a deal with Danny going for Breece Hall, Jalen Waddle, and Travion Henderson. And I was able to whittle it down once I had Rome to just Rome and Travion for Derrick Henry. My receiving core is just Amon-Ra St. Brown right now. So I need to either make another deal or pick up a bunch of wide receivers on waivers. But I am much happier right now with Derrick Henry and Travis Etienne being in my lineup instead of Breece Hall and Jalen Waddle. And I have lost all hope in Travion Henderson now that they have Terrell Jennings getting carries.
All right, I hear a lot of people complaining, no, Thomas doesn't respond to my offers. Thomas doesn't respond to me. You think Thomas responds to me? We've been working together for 4 years and he's maybe texted me back a total of 5 times. If you're going to make a deal with Thomas, how it has to happen is he's going to reach out to you, okay? He's a man of mystery. He's a man of importance and he doesn't have time to freaking respond to your trade questions.
Now, whatever you want to say about that deal is fine. I think overall it's a pretty fair deal. But the thing that I will say is that Danny, I mean, he's doing the best that he can, and I commend him for this. He's scrambling. He's realizing he might have watched some of the video clips that I made, like, oh shit, yeah, if I lose this week, my season is basically over, and I'm currently projected to lose. So with this deal, I do think he increases the upside of his lineup by getting Rome Odunze, Travion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson, as of this recording, is still not practicing. So maybe he gets 2 new starters in his lineup. It leans that way compared to Derrick Henry. So I do think his lineup is better. So now I'm starting to question, okay, does this mean that my chances of beating Danny have now gone down? Like you would expect, since he just got a better player in his starting lineup, at least on theory, and he loses Derrick Henry but gets a couple other pieces, like, yeah, I'm going to be having a lesser chance. So early on this week, before this deal was made, I had a 72% chance to beat Danny. After this deal is made and Danny has put these new players in his lineup, I currently have a 74% chance to beat Danny. At this rate, I hope Danny keeps trading because every trade that he is making so far this week, 1 for 1, is actually helping me.
Another deal in the Flock League I ended up sending away to Thomas the editor. Finally was able to get in contact with him. I've been trying to reach out to Thomas the editor, trying to get a deal done basically for the entirety of the season. And he finally got back. Again, in an ideal world, would I want to keep Derrick Henry? Absolutely. I believe in him. That's why I traded Puka Nacua to get Jefferson and Henry. Given the context of my team, I do need to swing for upside. Rome Odunze, I feel like I'm getting on his seasonal low right now. You guys know I'm still high on Rome Odunze. Traded him to Mason a few weeks ago. He's back on Team Lad, and I'm ready for him to have a big time second half of the season. And I'm all in on Travion Henderson. He's an RB2 for me rest of the season. We're feeling good. I feel confident that although I'm losing Derrick Henry, again, a guy that I really value long term, at the same time, I'm doing everything in my power to give myself the best chance of beating Sal. And I do have to respond to this because Sal's like, oh, Danny, I like your move. It obviously helps you this week, but the projections actually say otherwise. I mean, sure, we know how finicky sleeper projections are. And Travion Henderson's current sleeper projection, 7.59 points. I do think that'll probably go up if Ramondre Stevenson's ruled out. Going from potentially a 28% chance of winning according to sleeper to what I expect once it gets adjusted, probably around a 33 to 37% chance. I think I have to make this move. I'm not giving up, man. I'm throwing my best punch. Who knows? We got David and Goliath. I think that's what a lot of people are going to call it, given that I've lost a couple in a row. Your running backs are scoring a lot of points, and obviously I'm without my best player. But I will miss you, Derrick. I really wanted to keep you. You just got to do business for what's necessary.
Danny goes after his boy Rome, who we obviously gave up earlier in the season, and Travion Henderson playing the upside there. I would say it's a pretty even deal, given Danny's lack of running back talent. I think this is a little bit of a risky move, but if it ends up paying off for him and Trevion's like the starter rest of the season, it would end up being a great deal for him. And I think Rome is a good buy low at the moment. So overall, 2 trades that aren't super consequential. Another thing that I wanted to check in on too was Ray Davis. In the Flock League, the waivers run daily. So guys like Ray Davis, when they pop up on the injury report, or when James Cook pops up on the injury report, a guy like Ray Davis can't just be free added because all of us are on different time zones and whatnot. So Ray Davis goes 6 total bids, $11 to Sammy Stacks. He ends up getting it done there. A couple other players, David Njoku gets picked up, Ty Johnson, K. Doughton gets picked up by Zach, and Rashad Bateman, Justin Fields, Calvin Austin get picked up as well. So those are what we're rolling with.
I don't know if you can tell from these clips, but I'm just going to pull back the curtain a bit and let you in on what's been happening over the past few weeks. No lie, tensions have been rising. People have been throwing insults left and right. I think that there's some actual hatred going on right now in this league, and it's going to boil over this week in week 10 where stress is at an all-time high for a few of these creators. Our first matchup we're going to look at is the Team of Destiny versus the toilet bowl loser last year, Corey Bushland. If we are looking at this matchup here, right now, Corey set the spreads for all these matchups. He has it set at even money. I don't know what he's smoking. If you could actually put money on this, you would put every dollar you have on the Team of Destiny. While Corey's coming out here trying to sell some narrative, oh, Mason and I are close. If I win this, if this happens, if blah, 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 I'll have the buy and he won't. Buddy, what world do you live in? I'm 7-2. You're 5-4. I've scored like 100 more points than you. You're not playing this matchup for the buy. You are playing this matchup to stay out of the toilet bowl. I am playing this to get first place and to overtake Sal.
Oh, buddy, is this going to be a fun matchup? Mason versus myself. I've had this one circled on my schedule all the way back to when I made the Xavier Worthy trade, because I realized that this game could determine who gets a bye week. Now, it's unfortunate that Marvin Harrison Jr. couldn't outscore the Cowboys defense on Monday Night Football, because this game would in fact be for the second seed in the league if I had beaten Badake on Monday Night Football. But still, I go down the board. This matchup is like 50-50 in the projections. Mason's team dealing with no buys, really. I'm not really dealing with any buys after trading away some of my Chiefs players. So this is a situation where both of our teams are at full strength. No real injuries to discuss right now. This is just simply battle of the team who wants it more. So I am hoping that my team can take this one down, because I do not want to hear Mason's smug ass voice talking about how he's better than me at fantasy football and his record dating back to last year and how he's 7-2 in the league right now. Let's be honest here. If I beat him, he shuts the hell up. I would like to extend an olive branch, propose that we make a bet on this matchup. Now, last year, Danny and Mason had a bet on their matchup in which Mason would have to sing the Canadian national anthem for losing to Danny. Now, Danny lost that matchup. He had to sing the American national anthem, but I would like to up the stakes of the Canadian national anthem side of his bet. I would like Mason to sing the Canadian national anthem, but not just in English. I want to hear him sing it half in English, half in French. Anybody from Canada knows that sometimes if you're at a hockey game, especially if the Canadians are playing or something, you'll hear them go English and French back and forth, and all of a sudden you hear "Caton brasse portile," like just a bunch of bullshit. So I want to hear Mason do that. The olive branch has been extended. Mason, do you accept my terms of a bet?
Because tensions have been rising. When Bush offered me a bet, I was like, okay, game, name your price and name the wager. If y'all go back to last year, we made 4 bets on this channel. I won every single one. Literally 100% batting average. I tried to make one with Zach last week. He said he would only make it if I benched my quarterback and benched my best player. But here, Corey accepted. And what the bet is if I lose, I have to sing the Canadian national anthem in French. If Corey loses, he actually has to sing the American national anthem in a cute little outfit that I picked out for him. And I know that's not going to sound like a big deal to y'all, but you haven't been around Corey. I've hung out with Corey in the United States 3 separate times now, and every single week that I'm with him, I cannot tell you how many times this guy has to say, oh, I'm glad I don't live here. America has so many problems. America's the best place on the planet, my friend.
We'll see who takes this one down. May the best man win. This is for Canada. Danny lost this for our country last year, and the Dodgers won the World Series, beating Canada again. Canada needs a win here, so hopefully I can take this down for my country.
Now, moving over to our next matchup, we are going to have Mr. Sal Vetri, who is the #1 team in this league. He has won 8 weeks in a row, hasn't lost since I beat him in week 1. And this is off the back of Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor, 2 incredible picks that he has made, and he is playing Danny Ladd. Now, if y'all don't know, Danny Ladd has made more trades than anybody in this league. And he's the first person that you go to if you have an injured player and you need to sell that injured player at a discount. Because in Danny's mind, the only things that matter will be points in weeks 15, 16, 17. He has yet to understand that he actually has to make it to the fantasy playoffs to win this league. Danny's 4-5. He has scored the fewest amount of points across the entire league. And if he loses to Sal here, where he is a heavy dog, what you're realistically going to see is you're going to see Danny possibly fall behind Zach and possibly fall behind Badake in the league settings. Bush put the line of this matchup at Sal -17.5. And honestly, I'm going to go Sal -17.5, but I'm praying to God that Danny can pull off the upset, That way I can claim back the number 1 spot in this league and be the true king and earn back my crown and my throne.
Week 9 in the Flock League was almost as perfect as it possibly could have been for my playoff chances, first round bye, number 1 overall seed. I secured a victory. Bush ended up losing as a top 5 team in this league in the standings, and Avery ended up losing, didn't get 14 points from Javonte Williams on Monday night. So now I have a 3-game lead on a potential bye with only 5 weeks to play right now in the fantasy regular season. Now here's the thing. That number 1 overall seed matters a ton. Obviously the first round bye, you get into the final 4 of the playoffs, that's huge, but the number 1 overall seed in this league, the way it's shaping up right now, is massive. Avery, by all accounts, in my opinion, is the 2nd best team in this league, and after this upcoming week, since all of his players are on bye, he's gonna go to 5-5. There is a really good chance that Avery gets into the playoffs as a 6th seed, wins his first round matchup, and goes to the final 4. The reason why that's important for me to secure the number 1 overall seed is I get to choose my opponent. For me to get the number 1 overall seed is extremely important. I need Mason to start losing games. Somehow, some way, he's squeaking out these wins with only 120 points. I would like to get a little bit more cushion this week. Thankfully, I'm facing Danny. Now, this week, I'm taking on Danny. And a couple of weeks ago, Danny was he was feeling himself. He was feeling really good. He was 4-2. He was making a couple of trades. His team was pretty bad. He wasn't scoring points. He was just kind of getting lucky. Other teams weren't scoring against him. He was coming on these airwaves, calling out me, saying in week 10, we'll see who's last, whatever he said. We'll see who gets the last laugh. I have CeeDee Lamb. This is where Danny is currently at. Since him talking all that crap and making that deal, I believe I was on the record to say I think he torpedoed or ended his season. I don't think he wins another game. Since then, he hasn't won another game. He's not a playoff team. He has the fewest points in the league. And if he loses this week to me and he's 4-6, he probably has a chance to fall to 11th in the standings with the fewest points, meaning that he's going to be 3 games back of a playoff spot with 4 games to play.
So going into the starting lineup against Sal, and I think it's pretty much set here. Again, we're doing our best to try to land the plane with guys like CeeDee Lamb, Tajay Spears, Dak Prescott out of the lineup. Colson Loveland going up against the New York Giants. I think we saw the breakout with Loveland. This is what we developed him for. I mean, heck, on the practice field today, the boys were all getting up to Colson Loveland, poured a bunch of slime on him because he won the Offensive Player of the Week honors, and that's the level of camaraderie I want on Team Lad, man. Everybody called me crazy. They said, why are you rostering Colson Loveland? Colson Loveland is a tight end 27 the rest of the season. Colson Loveland should be on waivers. My 21-year-old tight end is already one of the most talented players in the league at his position. And yeah, sure, on face value, Trey McBride, he should be outscoring Colson Loveland. But don't count out my boy 84 because he showed what he's capable of last week. The obvious here is Sal's team is performing at an extremely high level. No doubt in my mind, 8-1, he deserves to talk his shit. He deserves to call me the bye week. But we're not a free bye week. We have a full lineup this weekend. Let's just see what happens on the gridiron, brother.
Now, moving over to our next matchup, we are going to have Zachary Savage playing against the beautiful devs of flockfantasy.com who have been absolutely crushing it. And here we have Zach at 3-6. If he loses this, he's done. He's going to be in the toilet bowl. If we combine the last 2 years, Zach currently is sitting with a top 3 combined record for all creators in this league. He's not the number 1 guy like I am, but y'all know I'm built different. But anyway, right now you have the dev team just barely sticking it with that last place for the playoffs. 4-5, they have scored over 1,200 points. If they win, they're pretty likely to get a playoff spot. If they lose, they're pretty likely to be in the toilet bowl. So it's going to be absolutely massive. Corey currently has the devs as a 15.5 point favorite, which honestly, I do think that Zach can pull off the upset, but the devs probably win.
Well, this week, the embarrassment continues. We're on a losing streak. We are honoring no one in our family, none of our heritage. We faced the dev team this week. And honestly, if anybody sends me into the shadow realm, into irrelevancy, locked and loaded into the toilet bowl, I'd prefer it be the dev team because they probably deserve it more than anybody else. Throughout the year, our dev team's awesome. And I'm constantly asking them questions and talking about the website and things that might not be working, or maybe I didn't understand how they worked anyway. Maybe I'm the dumbass. Honestly, their team is quite good. Jahmyr Gibbs had 5 points last week. I have to face Jahmyr Gibbs after his worst ever fantasy performance. And guess what? He faces my Washington Commanders. My favorite team that is just utter dog shit. Look, at this point, the only thing that could possibly bring me any sort of hope is seeing Bucky Irving back at practice. If I get that tweet, I will drop to the floor and praise the big man upstairs. I don't think you guys understand how heavily my emotions sway on one man that will never meet me doesn't know I exist. He lives rent-free in my mind, and I love that. But also, I should see someone to talk about that, because that's also a problem.
Now, moving over to Nathan and the fan wagon, I would say that this is maybe the most important matchup this week, because with Nathan, he is currently 4-5, right in the 7th spot in the league standings at the moment, and the fan wagon is currently in the 5th spot. And keep in mind, the fan has never had a job, and this is his opportunity to win $10,000. Do you have any idea what that would do for him? He would finally get to move from the streets inside a house. But with the fan wagon, he is currently slightly favored in this game. You have Bush putting him as a -4, but this is pretty much the matchup to see who's in and who's out of the playoff picture going into week 11.
All right, fan wagon, week 10 in the Flock League, and we are on our first winning streak of the season. That's right, we took a dub over Zach in week 8 and over Danny in week 9. This week against Nathan, it's a tough matchup. He's obviously coming off making some big moves in the league these past few weeks, getting his Puka back, and we got to face Puka this week. That's going to be rough. Not looking forward to that at all. Obviously, we want to win every week, but this matchup is extra important because Nathan is a direct competitor for one of those playoff spots. We are sitting at 5-4 in the standings from 3rd place, Avery, all the way down to 9th with Danny. We are separated by 1 game. Nathan is one of those teams. A loss this week and we're tied with him. A win and we're 2 games up. I need a big game from J.K. Dobbins tonight on Thursday Night Football. So yeah, let's keep this winning streak going. 3 games is a true streak, and if we could just ride that right into the playoffs, that would be absolutely incredible. Let's do it, fan wagon.
I honestly can't believe we're more than halfway through the football season, but here we are, and it's been as tumultuous as it was last year. I am 4-5, coming off of a win, but fun fact, for the 2nd straight year in a row now, I cannot win back-to-back games, so I don't think my chances this week against Sammy are very good. With Sammy, I mean, I just have a ton of respect for him because he has suffered some of the most quantity of injuries of any team in the Flock League, and he still has a winning record somehow. I'm expecting the best from my guys, as I'm going to need the best from them from here on out for me to have any chance of going anywhere in this league.
Then going over to 2 teams that are just battling it out at the very bottom of the league standings. Badake is currently 11th in the league standings, only ahead of Nick, the editor, who is editing this video, but both of these teams are white hot. Badake right now has won 3 weeks straight. The only team with a better win streak right now is actually Sal, who is the #1 team in this league. If Badake wins this week against Nick, you'll probably see him actually jump both Zach as well as Danny in the league settings, because when we go over to the other 4-5 team, Thomas, the editor, the GOAT editor of the Flock Fantasy YouTube channel, you will see that Thomas is a massive favorite over Avery. And y'all know, I'm gonna be honest with you, Avery has a good team. Avery is a good manager. I gotta bend the knee. Avery won the league last year. I used to say it was collusion with him and Nathan, but since then, I've just realized Nathan's an idiot. So usually you would have Avery as the heavy favorite, but right now, if you look at Avery's team, you actually have Patrick Mahomes on bye, Javonte Williams on bye, Rashee Rice on bye, Jamar Chase on bye, Amari and Hampton injured, Terry McLaurin injured, and he just went out there and traded for an injured Travis Hunter. So he doesn't really have an open roster spot where he can go and pick up somebody off the waiver wire. So it looks like there's a real chance that Avery's just throwing a 0 out there this week, and Avery's gonna fall to 5-5. And Thomas is going to move to 5-5, and Thomas can actually sneak his way into the playoffs. And while Avery still will have one of the best teams in the league, he's going to put himself in a compromising position where if he gets unlucky in the last few weeks, he could be a surprise team to fall to the toilet bowl, assuming that he loses against Thomas, which is very likely. Right now, Bush has Thomas as a 9.5 point favorite. I actually think the spread should be a lot larger, and I would go with Thomas minus 9.5.
All right, we're on to week 10, and there is no week 10 because team is taking the week off. We've got multiple guys on bye. We've got, of course, a lot of guys injured now. And so we knew this coming into this week, but I think we're going to be starting Marcus Mariota maybe at QB. I don't even know who I'm going to plug in. My running backs are going to be Kyle Monangai and Rashad White. It's GG's for me this week, man. But it is what it is. We've been here before, and last year we were able to overcome it. So congratulations to Thomas. I'm going to work on starting the worst players of all time this week and hopefully get back at it next week.
Well, it's becoming increasingly obvious over the last couple of days that people really want me to talk about the Jaden Daniels injury. It's the #1 comment on all of my YouTube videos. I'm getting DMs on Twitter, and somehow people are finding my Instagram to DM me about it. Look, favorite player, and he goes down along with our season, both in real life for the Commanders and in fantasy football. At this point, I'm numb. I don't really know what reaction I should give you guys, but I'm numb. It is what it is. At this point, if my team didn't sustain a serious injury on any given week, it would be more of a shock than when we do. But we will continue like we have all year to press on, field our best roster. And I've said the words, I can only take so much, probably 10 times this year. It just doesn't mean anything anymore. I'm numb to my core. So yeah, we're going to move on. We've picked up Matthew Stafford, and he will be our starter for the future.
Look, we got a lot of people saying, oh, Avery only won the league last year because Nathan made a bad trade, and Corey's accusing us of, colluding, and I want to respond to the allegations. Yeah, I did win the league because Nathan made a bad trade. Believe it or not, if you played in a fantasy football league before, taking advantage of people in trades and fleecing them is actually a pretty good way to win a fantasy football league. So I am not sorry for that whatsoever because it got me this. In terms of Corey's collusion allegations, Corey, Nathan and I are honest people. We're not actually going to collude. And of course, I did not cheat. I wouldn't do that. I feel like you would know that, man. But yeah, I absolutely took advantage of Nathan. I'm not sorry for it. Nathan made an awful trade and it won me the league. And what's funny about this year is I've done the same thing to Nick and nobody's saying anything because Nick's not my channel partner. But again, making a trade with somebody who's overreacting in fantasy football and fleecing the heck out of them, yeah, it's a good way to win a league.
By the way, we are less than 1,000 subscribers away from hitting 50,000. Y'all have gone crazy with this channel this year, and we couldn't appreciate it more. But if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel.
All right, so update for Team Daniel Badake. What just happened?
Troy Franklin just scored a touchdown here. Now he has 11 points. That's exactly what you wanted.
So not only does Troy Franklin get the touchdown, but Cortland Sutton doesn't. It couldn't have been better for Team Land, I would say. Officially halftime in the Broncos-Raiders game. Daniel Badake here with me. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I mean, at the moment, I think I have about, 15, 16 points right now. Brock Bowers less than 4 or 5, actually. After the week he just had over 30 games, I'm chilling right now.
Back to you.
During that atrocious Thursday night football game, Thomas and I were able to get a deal done. It's his week of activity, week 10. We're gonna note this for next year that Thomas comes to life in week 10, makes 3 trades this week and the final one with me.
So Thursday night is basically over, and I decided to do another trade. Earlier today, it was announced that Godwin wasn't going to be back for another month, so I needed some wide receivers on my team. And the best deal that I got was Travis Etienne and Chris Godwin for Deebo Samuel and Keenan Allen. I did a lot of trading this week, but basically this was the gist of my trades. It was Breece Hall, Jalen Waddle, and Travion Henderson for Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen, and Derrick Henry. I've created a slight problem for myself in week 12 when both Deebo Samuel and Keenan Allen are on bye, but hopefully my starting lineup is much better now where I will stop losing games.
J.K. Dobbins continues to dodge touchdowns like Neo dodges bullets in the Matrix. So 9.4 points, it could be worse. But we'll take it going into the weekend.
Keeping Dobbins out of the end zone on Thursday night is exactly what I needed to get my week to a decent kickstart. So we will see what happens now. See if my guys can find the end zone. See if my guys can be consistent and do their job. But again, ain't going to complain about anything on Thursday night.
So I have 4 players injured and 4 players on bye. So I don't have enough roster spots to even pick up flex guys. So I actually think I'm just gonna start injured guys in my flex spot this week. I was kind of waiting to see what Thomas did on Thursday night to make my decision. Like maybe he will, not get a ton from Ashton Genty and he has a defense, maybe his defense, but yeah, his defense has 15 points tonight. So I am almost certain losing this game no matter what I do. So I'm actually just probably gonna end up throwing the week.
All right, Thursday night football just ended, and I'm currently up 18 points to 3.7, where Nick only had Brock Bowers scoring less than 4 fantasy points. Look, it's gonna be hard to say this, and I might jinx myself, but I'm going to 4-0 on the week, which is absolutely crazy. And I'm just here spending a phenomenal time with the boys at the pool. I mean, playoffs, here we come.